too young to understand this, and it shows. Okay, but back in the day, see, I was born in '82. Now I know I look amazing. That's not the point. Okay, back then. There were two types of households. You were a Nintendo household or you were a Sega household.
Unless she was broke, because our household had both of them. I mean, we even had the 3DO, the Atari Jaguar. I mean, we didn't just have the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo. Maybe for you, maybe because you couldn't afford a Sega Genesis with games, man. But you're gonna go as far to say that the Sega, Sega just sucks in general. The funny thing is, I get it. The Nintendo Switch is a very successful platform, but you do understand that a lot of the Switch success comes from the Sega Nomad, which was a home console that can essentially play your games on the go and also play your games on the TV. You know what? I mean, if it wasn't for Sega, man, I mean, you guys would still be exchanging friend codes. I mean, you guys still are. So, and this is not a knock to Nintendo gamers, but I've noticed a lot of you guys want to come out the woodwork ever since the Nintendo Switch was a success. Where was you during the whole Wii U when nobody even wanted to buy your platform? Nobody cared about you. People was too busy playing on PlayStation because Mario could even save that garbage platform. And I hate to say it like that, but it is what it is. Nobody cared about the Wii U. And now that the Switch is out, y'all like, all you Nintendo drones want to come out too. And what's even more funny, if you really take out the illegal contracts that Nintendo had during the time with third party, you will realize that the Sega Genesis actually had more games. Contra Hard Corps is way better than Alien Wars. Castlevania Bloodlines is way better than Castlevania, Super Castlevania. And this is just my honest opinion. I personally like both of them, but I'm just going to go as far to say, I mean, you guys don't even have a game even remotely close to Alien Soldier, bro. That game is probably the best 16-bit game that I've ever seen, and yet for some reason even the Super Nintendo with all its color capabilities could not even perform a game like that, especially in its performance. Let's also talk about the fact that the Sega Genesis had a better CPU, which also meant that most games ran inherently better on the platform. So I don't get it as to why you say that Sega sucks. You even go as far to show the Sega Dreamcast, which happens to be one of Sega's greatest gaming consoles. Just because Sega doesn't exist as a console manufacturer doesn't necessarily mean the console sucks. And this is the problem with the gaming community, bro. You guys hold on to these hardware sales, but even then, the Sega Genesis sold just as well as the Super Nintendo. So I don't understand this argument, but I've heard it before when I've had people tell me, oh, the Sega Genesis had nothing but Sonic the Hedgehog. I mean, really? You guys just go as far to use the only game that was bundled in with the Genesis that your mom bought you and say that the Sega Genesis only had one franchise, which happens to be Sonic the Hedgehog? That's like me going as far to say, oh, well, the only good game on the NES is NES Mario and Duck Hunt because that's the one that came in with my console. What about all the other games that came out for? Well, I don't know about that because I couldn't afford them. That's what this sounds like to me, in all honesty.
Right, so your parents tried to show that they loved you by buying you a Super Nintendo and a Sega. But
most kids could even get that.
A Nintendo house or a Sega house. And then there were some of you that you were one or the other households, but you had a friend or neighbor or family member or whatever that had the other console. So you had access to both consoles. So you never really developed that loyalty to one or the other. But me, clearly, as I continue to say, I'm a Nintendo fangirl.
As she proceeds to point to her Nintendo t-shirt. You can't get any more fanboy than this.
Like, once I decide that I'm messing with you, I got your back. I'm rolling with you. So
what? All this for a piece of plastic?
Nintendo at a very young
and the funny thing is, now we're gonna humble your little Nintendo behind. First off, Final Fantasy, Castlevania, Contra, all the great games that the Super Nintendo as well as the NES was known for. Ain't none of those games was exclusives. You guys are in the same argument as these PlayStation fanboys that we talk about now. Because to be honest with you, those were the best games on the NES. Just like you're a huge fan of TMT. Who you think made those games, girl? Konami. And what's even more funny, TMT played better on the Sega Genesis in my personal opinion. Like, what are we doing here, man? Let's not talk about the Neo Geo conversions, sports games, and everything else, man. The only thing you guys had was your own little exclusive games at the time, like Donkey Kong Country, Super Mario World, which don't really need that much performance to run them. But hey, they were still good games. You guys did not own Final Fight. Sega owned Streets of Rage. You did not own Final Fantasy, but Sega owned Phantasy Star. I mean, what are we doing here? If you really want to go tick and tack, I would go as far to say that Sega had more of their own in-house studios with the Genesis, more so than what you got with Nintendo. Because let's be honest, guys, the best games on the Super Nintendo were third party. Y'all know this. Let's be honest here. Now, I'm not saying the same thing can't apply to the Genesis, but there is a few people that will say, I like the Eternal Champions. I like the Echo the Dolphin. I like the Shadow. These are games that Sega owns, Ristar, Mean Bean Machine. These are games that Sega intellectually owns. That's why when Sony came in and took the third party away from y'all like, oh, now we back to the same old Mario, Donkey Kong, and Zelda, and Pokemon. That's why Nintendo hasn't evolved. And let's not get started on Rare. Because let's be honest, Nintendo got saved by Rare during that generation with the Sega Saturn and the PlayStation 1. Because they were the only ones out here dropping out revolutionary games. Facts.
Age. And I'll admit, growing up, that was part of the fun, was the rivalry. Was going to school and talking trash about Sonic or talking trash about Mario, talking about the new games that were coming out.
I was out here enjoying everything, man. You sound like a girl gamer that couldn't afford anything. Just because your mama only bought you a Genesis with Sonic the Hedgehog or Altered Beast that came with it doesn't necessarily mean that the Sega gamers out there that bought all the games. I mean, Battle Mania, bro, Troubleshooter. There's so many great games for the Genesis, man. And we ain't even talking about third party. You know, I really don't understand why somebody would even come out with a video like this in their probably, 40s or 50s? Like she said she was born in 82. I don't know. I'll just say 40, 50 years old. I don't know. I don't care. I mean, come on, girl. You too grown for this. All the games that you like from Nintendo, which probably happens to be them lousy TMNT games, was all made by Konami.
This console,
not Nintendo.
For this console, I mean, it was just part of the fun. I mean, we kind of have that today with like PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo, but I feel like everyone kind of just knows their place, right? Like Xbox knows what their strengths are, PlayStation knows what their strengths are, Nintendo knows what their strengths are. So not really a rivalry.
So you go as far to respect. I mean, but for some people, they still think that. I mean, I'm still failing to understand. I'm really starting to think that the only people that engage in this console war garbage is the people that don't have any money. It seems like the people that can't afford everything, because we had the Atari Jaguar, the 3DO, the Neo Geo, even though my dad sold it because he couldn't afford games for it, but he did like it. I mean, there was a lot of fun to be had during those times. And you would go as far to be a fangirl for a company that doesn't even care about you. I mean, you should put that love and admiration towards your husband if you even have one. I mean, I don't understand this.
It's fun banter, okay? So I was a Nintendo household. That's who I grew up, and that's how I represent Nintendo to this day. Number 2, my second point. It's the way that Sega jumped on the scene that I find incredibly disrespectful. You find my slander when I'm out and about.
So Sega doesn't have a right to what? So you're afraid of competition? Like what? You don't like the way Sega jumped into the scene? Sega jumped in the scene with the SG-1000, including the Sega Master System. What is you talking about?
Shopping for video games and
what about the TurboGrafx?
Sega won't make a comment. You feel, oh my God, so disgusted. But does anyone ever still talk about how Sega jumped on the scene? Let me give you a little just.
You do understand that Sega jumped on the scene way before the Genesis, right? I'm just letting you know. Just because that was popular in America doesn't necessarily mean that the Sega Genesis was their first console.
Quick Reader's Digest version of it. Nintendo.
And on top of that,
Sega, with their sole only purpose, not to be competitive with Nintendo.
Really? Sega was not... Did you just say that Sega wasn't Bro, they have commercials. Genesis does what Nintendo don't. And you out here sitting there saying that the Genesis wasn't competitive, bro. But yet you was a part of that era, right? How do you not know that? Genesis does? I mean, come on, man. This is ridiculous.
Damn, that's how they came on the scene. They recruited a shark hunting toy guy as their marketer in order to take down Nintendo. Their goal was to take down Nintendo. It wasn't to, have a market. They had their market.
And why was you afraid? Don't tell me you was that little pathetic schoolgirl. Oh, I'm afraid that the Genesis is gonna take away my Nintendo. Don't tell me you're doing that, bro, because it ain't that serious. I mean, you should have been more than happy. I mean, you got Sega Genesis that has great games, and then you also have the Super Nintendo. What seems to be the problem? Like, you're speaking from a perspective like you, as if you was afraid that Sega Genesis was gonna come in and take over, and at one point they did, but Sega dropped the ball.
Nintendo had their market. Sega was like, we're gonna come here and we're gonna shut this shit down. You remember, right? Because what do you guys like to say? Sega do what Nintendo don't.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Figure out a way to make fun of Nintendo. So as a business owner myself, you just find it tacky. Like, you can't even find your own way into the market. You want to try to bring us down in order to bring yourselves up. It's lame, bro. It's lame. So
what are you talking about, bro? And then she's like, this is I mean, she said, I do my own business. Bro, listen, man. Nobody cares, bro. I mean, you go as far to take shots saying anybody that likes Sega sucks. Like, what are you talking about, bro? I mean, I understand that the Switch is successful, but a lot of its aspects are taken away from the Sega Nomad, which was a portable console that could place home console Sega Genesis games on the go, as well as on your TV screen. Sega has helped revolutionize the way we played gaming, and Microsoft is expanding on that notion just because they have trillions of dollars to do so. The fact that you don't show respect to Sega is very sad to me. You know what I mean? But I guess Sega's a fallen hero, and that's usually what happens when you don't have a console. Is this what you guys are going to do with Sony and Xbox when they cease to exist? Bash them and completely ignore every single accomplishment that they've done for the gaming community? This type of logic is toxic. Like, I'm sorry. This type of stuff, especially in 2024, I can't believe we're still talking about 16-bit Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis console wars, bro. Like, I really don't get it.
That in itself, I mean, you should see the documentary Console Wars. You should see that. But that
I don't think so. I think I'm just going to continue to play on my Super Nintendo and my Sega Genesis like a real gamer.
So I just think, like, dude, you guys are a bunch of suckers. Like, you couldn't even just figure it out. You just were just like, we're just going to try to make fun of them, make them look stupid, and then we'll look better. Get out. Miss me with that. Okay? Number 3. The third reason why I say so much about Sega. And it's solely on the purpose on how much you guys hate it. You guys cannot stand it. When I say guys, you don't get crazy. And I'm old. I mean, the hardcore people that honestly feel disrespected when I'll be like, oh, Sega sucks. And then you're in the comments like, oh my God. Like, I genuinely find it funny and entertaining for myself how upset you guys get. And I think it's interesting.
So you're doing this for attention and reaction. Is that what it is?
It's kind of like PlayStation gamers. Dude, go tell a Nintendo gamer right now that their frames per second sucks. They can't handle high quality games. They'll never be as strong as PlayStation. Go tell a Nintendo gamer that right now. You want to know what they're going to say? They're going to be like, yeah, it's true. Like, we know our role. We know our games. We love our games. We're happy.
You know that's not an exclusive either, right?
With our games, like, we're not trying to compete with PlayStation and Xbox. But tell a PlayStation gamer and a Sega gamer, you guys suck. They lose their shit. Like,
I mean, it's the fact that it's ignorant, though. I mean, to be honest with you, I can think of far better Sega games than I can Nintendo. Because to be honest with you, all Nintendo has really been good for, and not to be disrespectful to the Nintendo audience out there, is Metroid, which you guys do not value, Fire Emblem, which you guys... It's funny, a lot of the good games that you guys have, like F-Zero, you don't value. A lot of the Nintendo games don't even really value. I'm not saying for everybody. I'm speaking on the vast majority. You know what I mean? Like what she said, don't take things out of context. Okay, I appreciate these. Star Fox, another one. You guys focus on Pokemon. You don't even focus on Donkey Kong anymore. It's what? Mario and Pokemon at this point. I mean, you got Mario in every single game, bro. He's doing parties. He's out here boxing. He's out here traveling that Odyssey, moving around the galaxy. This man's doing it he's even racing around in carts and everything. I mean, Mario's, he's all y'all got.
It's so defensive. I don't know why that is. Somebody tell me why that is. Is it because of the amount of money that you spend on PlayStation games and how weak your library is? I don't know.
Oh, now she's talking about PlayStation. All right, here we go, man. What do you mean? Like, the Nintendo Switch barely even got their own games, bro. They don't even make their own Smash. Namco's doing it. Let's just be honest, bro. Nintendo ain't really doing that much better either. And the only thing that Nintendo's doing well is banking off you gamers' nostalgia. That's why you're still playing remastered games. And what's crazy about that, see, the one thing I respected about Sega is that they tried to push the envelope of gaming while Nintendo still, as you guys can see currently, is still living in the past. That's why y'all still exchanging friend codes.
Why you guys just feel the need to defend it so like to your core? Like, I mean, Nintendo gamers, we're just
so
like,
people can't defend the fact that they like Sega. I mean, I can. I played both platforms, and I personally enjoyed every single one of them. But I will go as far to say that the Sega Genesis had its own library that was made by Sega's very own in-house studios. Nintendo cannot say the same, bro. Contra 3, I mean, I can say Contra Hard Corps, I mean, Gunstar. Bro, Sega did their own intellectual property. They did. Final Fight is not Nintendo. It is Capcom. Final Fantasy is Squaresoft. It is not Nintendo. That's why when the PlayStation 1 came out, nobody cared about the N64 because Nintendo has lost access to all those games. So Nintendo had to help rebuild themselves from the ground up, and they've been doing it ever since the 64 and the GameCube, which were all systems that didn't do that well, to the point where even the original Xbox, which was a new console at the time, came in and sold practically better. What are you not understanding, bro? It didn't even take Nintendo. Bro, Nintendo's reign hasn't even really been as dominant as you people want to think. The 64, the GameCube. I mean, the Wii was successful as a gimmick. Most people didn't care for the software. They only bought it for Just Dance and Wii Fit. Y'all know this, man. Cut the cap, bro. The Wii U was another failure. Now that you guys got the Switch, now all of a sudden you Nintendo fanboys want to open your mouth.
we're totally okay with it. So that's another reason why I continue to say it is because how much it just like the panties just get so bunched up. It tickles me, and yeah,
it tickles my panties.
I want to apologize for that, but
nah, I'm good. You can keep those on, honey bun. Listen. This is ridiculous, bro. I can't believe this girl was born in 1982 and she's still out here console warring over Nintendo, bro. Like I said, Nintendo had great games. Sega had great. I would say go as far to say that Sega, and this is coming from a person that has indulged in both of these companies' libraries, and I will tell you that Sega had some great games. Maybe they might have been a little too challenging for you, like Chalking the Forever Man. I know how most Nintendo gamers are. You fail the first stage, and then you don't want to play it again. I get it. It's perfectly understandable. But Sega was for the hardcore. They were. Sega was for the hardcore gamer. That's why a lot of their games was arcade-centric, while Nintendo games was built more on exploration and, having a better color palette.
And you guys say what you guys want to say in the comments. So, I mean, why can't I have a little bit of fun as well, right? That's all I'm saying.
I mean, it's fine. I don't think people have a problem with that, but it's the fact that you're ignorant in what you're talking about. I can guarantee you that your favorite games from the NES and Super Nintendo weren't even owned by Nintendo. That's all due to the fact that they had illegal contracts to keep those games away off other platforms. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is why Nintendo, bro, I'm telling you, PlayStation and Nintendo gamers are very much the same. And I even think Nintendo gamers will go as far to disagree with you because, let's be honest, a lot of the Super Nintendo and NES's greatness, see, I'm gonna tell you guys something right now. NES and Super Nintendo, you want to know how PlayStation 1 was successful? Because all they did was take the Super Nintendo strategy. Sega was right. Sony, they don't know how to make games. Yes, that is true. But guess what? They had third-party make games for them. And they were publishing those games solely for the PS1, which meant that most companies like, okay, we'll just keep them here then. I mean, they're giving us free publishing, promotion, and everything. Sony's taking care of us, and the system's very easy to develop for. Why focus on the Saturn and the N64? And that's how Sony got their big push into the console landscape market, which has, like I said before, has more to do with third-party studios. Third-party studios is what built this gaming community, not exclusives.
And number 4, and this is, I've said my 3 points. Now, this is where I'm going to
wrap it up. Nintendo don't even have a home console, bro. Y'all left during the Wii U. Don't think that the Switch is a real home console because it's really just a portable that can be played at home.
And this is where I'm going to say something that you might find incredibly shocking. I love everything that has to do with gaming history. Have you not seen
really?
My game room? I have
I don't mean nothing.
ColecoVision and television, Ataris, what's this thing, the Turbo Graphics, I mean, Neo Geo. I respect Channel F. I mean, everything that has done something in the gaming history that has...
Which is sad because Sega has probably done more than anybody, and yet you ain't even, and you sitting there saying, why did Sega bring out a console?
Us where we are today in the gaming world.
Yeah, and I would thank Sega for that, because Sega is what helped push at least the console gaming landscape, to what it is with online gaming and the things that you see now with Phantasy Star. Nintendo weren't pushing these type of games. Y'all know this, man. Y'all be still stuck around jumping on blocks and cubes like you're doing. Do. Y'all still doing the same thing. 30 years and y'all still hitting blocks on your head, bro, like a bunch of fools. And y'all want to sit there and say, Nintendo revolutionized the way we... Yeah, right, bro. I mean, we go from playing 3D World with a cat costume in the next game with an elephant. Oh, wow. So much innovation there, guys.
That includes Sega Genesis, or just Sega. I mean, come on. I did a whole video on modifying my Sega Game Gear and how excited I was to modify this thing.
Great console.
I truly hated Sega. Would I have one of these? No.
Right. I would... This girl capping. Talking about, what if I really hated Sega when I hit... yes. Because it's even more of a reason for you to bash on it, so you can cover up your tracks. I mean, that's why you look like a track star right now with that Nintendo jacket. Because you out here running because you a track star. She gonna run away when they get home.
I have a Sega emulator. I don't really play it that much.
There you go.
I have a Sega emulator, so understand that.
Yeah, you have a Sega emulator, but you don't have any Sega consoles. Yes, we get it.
And it's completely all in fun. But you continue to fuel me. I like to feed the fire. I think it's fun. But, I mean, you can't really hate anything that left their mark in the gaming history. You can't do it. So, I mean, look at Sega now. Now, they're not making consoles because they got blown out. Their Dreamcast and Sega Saturn and 32X or whatever sales were so atrocious it put them out of business.
Oh, really? Oh, I love the way that you just went there with that argument. You do know Sega don't exist. The same reason why Nintendo wasn't going to exist was mostly due to PlayStation. This has nothing to do with Nintendo. It's so funny that Nintendo gamers, especially yourself, that think like this. I mean, you're on this Harmon Smith nonsense. You know what I mean? Like with him, I felt bad, but this is crazy. Like, you really think, right, that Sega left the console business because of Nintendo? No, they left the console business because of PlayStation with the PS1 and 2. You know? I mean, to the point where even the GameCube was struggling. We're struggling here, guys. Oh, let's come up with a gimmick with the Wii, with a Wii remote and the nunchuck. And, there we go. You know, Nintendo could even stay with the hardcore. They had to appeal to casuals with the Wii. To the point where they even ruined games like Twilight Princess, where you're just waving your hand around and y'all sit there and defended that. And then the Wii U was a failure and a flop. To the point where Nintendo left the home console market all in favor of their portable market, which has always been successful for them. That's the reason why the Switch is a success. Nintendo has already left the home console market. What are you talking about?
That's how you learn. And as a business owner myself, too, I mean, if it was really that bad, would Nintendo be selling Sega games, right? No, this is a business move. Like, Sega is now, they're a game developer. They know their role. They do what they're good at now. And we've all embraced, I guess, gaming, period. Yeah, so there's my video. There's no reason to get upset. I love it all, but if you catch me on the streets and you bring me that Sega shit, I'm going to back Nintendo all the...
Bro, you hear this, bro? Like, this is crazy, bro. This girl acting like what is this, Bloods versus Crips? It really ain't that serious, man. Like, I really, like, I don't get it, man. I go as far to say that the Sega Saturn was even better than N64. Yeah, Dragon Force, Panzer Dragoon Saga, Panzer Dragoon 1 and 2, Virtual Con 1 and 2, House of the Dead. I mean, there was so many, Three Dirty Drawers, Virtual Fighter 2 even. I mean, come on, bro. The only thing the N64 even did during that time was have probably remotely better platformers. Maybe that was it. And maybe some first-person shooters, which wasn't something that a lot of Nintendo gamers were used to. So, I don't get it. Like, I feel like a lot of these systems had their pros and cons. I feel like a lot of them are enjoyable for what they are. But you make it seem as if Nintendo has always been successful, and that's not true. That's not true. The N64, to a lot, was a flop. The GameCube was a flop. The Wii, which was a success, but it also was kind of a flop in regards to that. It was PS3 and 360 was more favorable. You know, they bought the Wii. The Wii was a nice entry console. People bought into the whole gimmick, and then it just became a console for casuals. They just wanted to play Wii Fit. Do you really want to count that as a hardcore gaming console? And then the Wii U, forget about it. Nobody really cared about that console. And then now we got the Nintendo Switch. Nintendo left the home console market. They left. That's why the Switch is a portable. It's a portable console. All they did was take the Wii U and make it a portable console. And I mean, if you compare a 3DS to a Switch, then obviously there's a huge graphical difference. And that's why Nintendo's taking their sweet time with Switch 2. Because to be honest with you, they don't even know what to do with that either. They're going to try to pull a PS2 by putting backwards compatibility and rehash the same games. I could probably more likely guarantee that. I mean, this girl don't know what she's talking about, bro. She don't know nothing about Sega's history. Because for you to talk about Sega in that tone or that voice, then I would advise you to at least give the Sega library a chance, but more than likely the games are too challenging for you. So, like I said, man, this was such a bad taste. If you guys see this video, make sure you guys probably make a reply video to this, because I think it's something that needs to be brought up to people's attention, you know, and I need some, females that I talk about on the channel instead of talking about all these other fools that are going on in this community. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, man. And like I said, take care. Peace out.